What are you doing? Silly girl. Well, hello, Rossi.
Good morning. So I actually just recorded an entire introduction video on my 45-minute drive to the farm, but I was on the interstate, and when I did the playback of about a 10-minute long video, the road noise was really bad. So I decided to just try this again once I was off the interstate, which I am now. So at any rate, I do apologize if there is still some road noise. I'm sure it's not going to be as bad because I'm in city limits now, but I had an external microphone and it just was no good. It made no difference in the sound quality for my camera, and in fact, after I unplugged it, I started hearing this white noise that never was there before I had a microphone plugged into it, so I don't even know what it did to my camera. And then when I plugged it into my phone, it actually made things worse instead of better. It sounded like there were earmuffs over my speaker on my phone, so I sent that one back. I've ordered a new one that clips to my lapel, so I don't have to worry about it trying to pick up sound from across the room, or really from like 5 feet away. But Amazon Prime has just been kind of sucking here lately, and instead of 2-day shipping like you're supposed to be getting for your membership that you pay for, it's been taking a week. So it's not going to be here until Thursday. So it's going to be a couple of videos out before I really have good sound quality, and I do apologize for that. I know it's kind of tough to listen when the music is loud and then the person's talking and it's hard to hear and you got to turn the volume up, but I am working to remedy that. So anyway, I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to do a little introduction for all of the new faces that are around here. So obviously, my name is Lauren. I am 38 years old and I am a single mom of 2 teenage boys. I am not married, but I have been in a relationship with the same person for honestly going on 5 years. April 4th will be 5 years for us. But we initially had planned on buying a house together this last summer. He has 2 kids, I have 2 kids, and then his daughter and my oldest son are the same age, and they graduated high school last year. So we thought once they are kind of grown and doing their own thing, then we would buy a house together, so we only have 2 kids left to worry about. And then of course we know what the housing market has done since then. So now we are just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for prices to come back down to be a little bit reasonable again and rates to lower. So we will see what happens there. We're also not opposed to, I have an elderly neighbor. I think she's like in her 90s or something. So, you know, if that house comes available, he will probably buy that and then we'll just live next door to each other. So we are very unconventional people, and we, you know, both of us are very independent and used to being on our own, and at the very least we're going to have separate bedrooms because he snores and I am a light sleeper, and so if we, you know, shared the same bedroom, I would never sleep. So we are not opposed to just having separate houses next door to each other. I mean, we would both be completely happy with that. So I guess if you like non-convention, then I might be a person that you want to watch. But I think the biggest things about me really are threefold. So I am a holistic nutritionist first and foremost. I'm certified in holistic nutrition, and I also have a bachelor's degree in journalism. So I have been writing about nutrition for a good while now. And so you will see a lot of that also playing out in my vlogs. I have shared several different just like cooking recipes, things like that already on here, and I'm currently working on a course to renew my certification, so I've been talking a little bit about that, and I will be sharing more about that to come. So you will hear some things about nutrition and see some cooking and things like that from me on here. In the spring, so I just started this channel basically on Halloween. It was, I think the very first video I did was putting up Christmas decorations, which normally I don't put them up quite that early, but this year we had no plans for Halloween and it just didn't really feel like Halloween, and I was ready for that Christmas spirit. 2023 was kind of a rough year, so, you know, Christmas magic was definitely something calling to me this year. But anyway, so the springtime are really starting here pretty soon. I'm going to be doing some seed starting, but spring and summer, you will see a lot of gardening content from me as well. And, you know, that does kind of play hand in hand to holistic nutrition because I am plant-based like 95% of the time. About once a week, usually when Michael and I will eat out or something, I'm not opposed to having a serving of meat. I'm really dairy-free the vast majority of the time. I did eat a little bit of cheese over Christmas time, and like my face is already broken out from it. It just was that quick and that easy. I dealt with acne pretty much my entire life until a couple of years ago when I finally made that final little leap from kind of being like Mediterranean diet-esque on to being fully plant, well, almost fully plant-based. But cutting out dairy was kind of that magic component that as soon as I did that, my acne finally, for the first time in my entire life, cleared up. And now whenever I do have any dairy at all, which if I do, it's only ever cheese. You know, I don't do milk or sour cream or any of that kind of stuff. Maybe some butter in like a baked good or something. But at any rate, my hormonal balance has definitely improved vastly since I cut out the dairy. So really it's not just nutrition, but plant-based nutrition is what I talk about and live on here a lot. And then in addition to the nutrition and the gardening, I am definitely kind of a bibliophile. I love to read. I've been reading my entire life. I was an early reader. I was able to read already by the time I started kindergarten. And I was kind of that like nerdy kid that would get in trouble for reading in class and not paying attention to the teacher. And I would sit under trees and read at recess instead of playing. Like that was just kind of a thing for me. And I always wanted to be a writer. And so then I got my bachelor's degree in journalism, which I did not finish until a few years ago because I did get pregnant unexpectedly, or unplanned, I should say. I married my high school sweetheart, and we had my first son, Hunter. I was only 19 when I had him. And then my second son, Logan, I was 21, and he was actually planned because by that point I was married. But then I was divorced by the time he was 2 because I was just so young, and their dad and I really had nothing in common. We were not compatible, so it was kind of destined for failure. But anyway, so my plans kind of got a wrench thrown in the gears because I became a mom at such a young age, and then I became a single mom. So I was working full-time, raising my kids, and also going to college part-time. So it took forever, I feel like, for me to finish. I completed my associate's degree first in early childhood education, and I only chose that because I was becoming a mom and I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I was discouraged from journalism initially because I graduated high school in 2003, and newspapers were shutting down all over the country at that point. And so I was kind of scared out of joining journalism just for that reason. I was afraid I would never find a job. And so then I didn't know what I wanted to do. And once I got divorced, I still taught preschool for a very brief amount of time, but you know, in private preschool, the pay is terrible. You get minimum wage or barely over, and there are no benefits. And so I very quickly left that, and I started working at an interim position at a bank. And I have worked my way up through the loan department, and I'm now in loan compliance. And so I am doing much better for myself, and I'm happy with my job. And I had enough experience by this point that I didn't have to have a actual financial related degree. So while I did initially start my bachelor's degree for business administration, I did end up switching to journalism because I got to business statistics and I was just like, no, this is not for me. I am not that kind of a math person. I'm not doing this, especially since I don't even need the degree for the career that I have. So I switched to journalism. I completed my journalism degree from UMass Amherst online, obviously. I live in Missouri, so so really all I do with that, because I was not going to leave a well-established career to start all over again in an entry-level position where, I just couldn't afford to by that point. They wouldn't have paid what I needed them to in order to continue the life that I had. So I just have my own, I have 2 blogs. The one was like a nutrition blog, and so that was kind of the purpose of getting my certificate in nutrition, was to kind of coincide and give me credentials to go along with that blog. But I've been studying nutrition since my grandma was diagnosed with cancer in 2008, and it has led me to where I am now. So anyhow, I think I've probably prattled on about long enough. Nutrition, gardening, books, the biggest things about me. But anyway, I'm almost to the farm now, so hello again. And if you are new here and you plan on sticking around, then welcome. And I hope we get to know each other. So I will see you here in a few minutes. have made it, and I am sitting as close to this thing as I can get right now. It's been running for a while, but it's still a little chilly in here. But welcome to the cabin. I would have already shown just kind of a little pan. So we've been working on drywall, and so far my son's been the only one to work on it, but I'm coming out to do a little bit more today. But I found all of the drywall tools and stuff, and of course, he did not clean it up, and I figured that was going to be the case because God love him, like he is such a hard worker and he loves to work on stuff. He likes to be busy. He's constantly stir crazy and doesn't like to sit around being bored. However, he always fails at the post-work cleanup part of things. He finishes what he's working on and everything gets dropped where it sits and he doesn't clean up. And so it is something that I definitely get on him about a lot. And I'm sure as he gets older and becomes, a full-grown man, that kind of stuff is going to start to change. But anyway, I'm going to have to go and clean up all of the, oh goodness, let me see if I can get it out of here. But all of these little, trowels and putty knives and everything he's been using are still covered. So I've got to go get these cleaned up before I can really work on anything, which is fine because it's still just not quite warm enough in here. I'm probably going to eat a little bit of lunch with my mom and stepdad and grandpa who are inside the house, and then I'll come back out here. But the plan is I'm going to be doing kind of like a faux paneling up to about here. And then I will paint the top. I really wanted to do drywall, but this is kind of just like a bunkhouse type of thing because the house is a retirement house, and then my mom and stepdad live there now, but once they are gone, it's kind of just going to become a weekend vacation home kind of thing. So we didn't want something big and expensive to, run up taxes and maintenance and all of that stuff on for the long haul. So this is kind of just a little overflow for, anytime someone wants to come camp, use the farm, stay, or whatever, because my grandpa's going to move out here, and so both of the bedrooms in the house will be taken. And so we will have a bed here and then a loft. They were supposed to build it out. There was a loft on both ends, and they took this one down and we're going to move it down here, but the way that the place was built, they weren't able to do that. They had to actually cut it out. But then for whatever reason, they didn't go and buy the lumber and still build the loft out. They just left it, and then they drywalled over the ends and everywhere where that loft needs to be put into place. So now we have to kind of undo that work and still build out the loft ourselves and then finish it. But once that's done, we are going to put then a queen mattress up there, so there will be another place for people to sleep. And then also the little love seat that we have out here is a futon. It's a little bit bigger than twin size, but not full size. So at least one person can sleep on that as well if need be. So. Mom's running in real quick to check pricing on the flooring because she has almost 2 full cartons left, so I'm going to buy one more and that should be enough to do the flooring in here. And she doesn't know how much it was a carton because it was part of the whole invoice for the house, so she's checking to see if she can find that. But while she's gone, I just thought I'd kind of explain a little bit about what I'm doing. Obviously you already saw me mud and then put the tape over. So now I've got to mud over the tape to make sure it sticks well. But this seam, you have different tools for different angles and stuff, but this is a seam that's just kind of an odd angle. So there's not a tool to be able to drag across, because theoretically you're going to put the mud on, apply that, you should be able to drag straight across to make it smooth, but because there's just a little bit of an angle where the ceiling starts to go up, I'm going right at the crease and kind of dragging down and then up away from that crease, since I can't go straight across. But that's what I'm doing now to get just a really, really thin layer over top of the tape. And so to minimize the amount of sanding and, more importantly, the amount of cracking, you just always do really thin layers in order to build it up. And then you won't have as much sanding to do at the end. And I did have to change gloves. She found me a pair that's like leather, because even with those other gloves, the fiberglass from rubbing this down was starting to go through the glove. I'm so sensitive to fiberglass, but anyway, back at it. When you're at the vet and she voluntarily gets in the carrier that she hates.
What are you doing, Miss Emily? See, I gotta get checked out. Because I had some diarrhea and a cough one day last week. And we gotta make sure everything's okay. Yeah.
All right, coming to you from the car again. We're just leaving the vet, and I brought her in. She had diarrhea a couple of times last week, and she had a cough one time. So just with those two things combined, because cats, like a coughing in a cat is extremely rare. So just with those two things combined, I was honestly really nervous that something was wrong. And as soon as we got in there, you know, they wanted to do a fecal sample, which I knew that they would. But they also said they wanted to do an FIV leukemia test, which is exactly what I was kind of afraid of. And I was so positive that she had it, and it was negative. So like massive, massive sigh of relief. I guess she just kind of managed to pick up a bug, and so they gave her a steroid injection and an antibiotic injection, and then they gave me an oral antibiotic for her to take over the next week. And so that's all we have to do, and honestly, that's great news to me. So we honestly just have like the best vet in the entire world. It is the Cape Small Animal Clinic in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And kind of the backstory on Emily: she's one of 4 kittens that we rescued. And so you might have seen, because I know I've put them on videos here a couple of times, but I know I've got a lot of new faces too. But at Michael's house, there are 2 feral cats that we feed and shelter, and they're definitely brother and sister, because they look just alike, but one's a girl, one's a boy, and they're undoubtedly like Maine Coon mixes too, because they look very Maine Coon. They have like the big white fluffy like lion's mane around their chest and everything, but the female got pregnant, and that's where Emily came from. And it was her, and then she had 3 litter mates as well. And Michael's kitten that he has, Jean-Luc, is her brother. And then Michael's brother took one of the kittens, and then a woman that I work with's daughter took the other one. So anyway, I've had these kittens, or I rescued them at 4 weeks and brought them home and like bottle fed them and everything, because the mom, we did TNR her, which is trap, neuter, return. So we got her in the Cape Small Animal Clinic where I just left. It's like the only place in town that will do a TNR, that works with feral cats like that. And so that was how we were introduced to them. But when I first brought the kittens home, it was because they had gotten sick. And I believe that their mom is a carrier for like the cat herpes virus, which is like the cat cold virus, because as soon as Michael's cat Tito started like going outside and being around them, he got the cold. And then all 4 of the kittens had it whenever she had the kittens. And so all 4 of them, they ended up, because kittens are so vulnerable, they had an upper respiratory infection. So they had like the cruddy eyes and runny noses and all of the stuff. And so kittens that young, like the odds of them surviving that are slim to none. So we had to intervene and bring them into the vet, and they all got put on antibiotics and some eye drops and everything to clear up all of their symptoms. But that meant that I had to, because their mom is feral, you know, we couldn't bring her indoors and let her continue caring for these kittens. So I ended up taking them home with me, because I work from home and I could, you know, I had a place and the time to be able to work with them. So I was bottle feeding these kittens, and I, you know, weaned them and had them all until they were 12 weeks and old enough to go to their forever homes. And then I kept Emily. So anyway, throughout this process, it started with Jean-Luc, the kitten that Michael has kept. He was the first one that kind of got left behind when she moved the kittens one time. And we noticed that he was sick, and he was very tiny, very vulnerable. And so we called around to, like, Michael called his vet, I called my vet, we called a couple other places in town, and none of them would take him on an emergency basis. My vet was willing to, but they were going to charge like $225 just for an emergency vet visit on a Saturday when no one was in office. And then we found Cape Small Animal Clinic, and they immediately were like, yeah, bring him in. You might have to sit and wait for a little bit because, you know, we are pretty full this morning, but, you know, we'll make time, we'll get to you. No problem at all. And then we only ended up waiting for like 30 minutes before they saw him. And having 4 young kittens like that, I had to end up taking 1 or 2 of them back, you know, over the next few weeks for various things. And they always worked with us. They got us right in any kind of like an emergency situation like that. They're awesome. They're amazing. It's the best vet experience I've ever had in my entire life. And so now we will not go anywhere else. But I'm very, very happy to wrap this up that Emily is okay, that all she needs is some antibiotics and she is going to be fine. And honestly, they did an FIV leukemia test. They gave her steroid injection, antibiotic injection, they did a fecal sample, and then like just the regular vet exam. And it was all $171. So, you know, their prices are super reasonable too. So I just love them. Super glad that Emily is okay. And I guess if you want to follow along with Emily's journey, she always makes appearances in the videos too. And now you know a little bit about her backstory and how I ended up with her. So anyway, that's probably going to wrap up this vlog. I think it is Monday now, and I'm on my way home from the vet, which means I'm going back to work. And so this one will be out on Wednesday. So I will probably catch up with you a little bit later in the week when I'm ready to start filming for next Sunday's vlog. So have a lovely week. Oh yes, one more thing I wanted to add really quick. I harness and leash her, and I have been doing that since she was teeny tiny. And like basically as soon as she was big enough to get in the smallest harness I could find. And I keep her socialized. We take her out once a week when we go do like our Saturday errands and get coffee and stuff. We take her with us for part of that to the places that are pet friendly. And you know, the payoff is she's well socialized, and when I do have to take her to the vet or something, she does not freak out. Like, she's super calm, she's so well behaved, and like every time I go, the vets like have some kind of commentary on how she is like the best behaved cat they've ever handled. And like they had to draw blood from her today for the FIV test, and they were like, you know, usually they freak out and kick and scratch, and like she didn't move. She's just super docile and like the best cat they've ever had to work on. So definitely socialize your cats if you're planning on getting a cat. It's always a super good idea. Cats honestly do really, really well when they're socialized from a young age. So anyway, bye.